What if I told you one of the busiest airports on Earth was never designed for this many people? And every time you're stuck in that endless LAX traffic, you're actually trapped in a plan drawn up in the 1950s. Sounds unbelievable, right? Before I show you how a $30 billion overhaul is betting everything on trains, new roads, and entire new terminals, click on the subscribe button. Because today we're stepping inside the chaos, history, and future of Los Angeles International Airport. In 1928, Los Angeles was still a city of orange groves and boundless sky, but ambition was already its most abundant crop. That year, city planners laid down a strip of concrete on what was then the lonely edge of town, Mines Field, the seed from which Los Angeles International Airport would grow. Back then, a handful of propeller planes ferried mail and a few daring travelers. The business of flight still closer to barnstorming than to the everyday rhythm of a metropolis. But as the decades unfolded, so did the scale of aviation and Los Angeles itself. By the 1950s, jetliners were beginning to shrink continents, and Los Angeles was no longer content to be a stopover on someone else's journey. It needed an airport as sprawling, dazzling, and self-assured as the city itself. In 1958, planners unrolled a vision as optimistic as the space age. A sweeping U-shaped horseshoe of terminals, each distinct but part of a greater whole, all revolving around a vast core of parking lots, ring roads, and people in motion. At the heart of this plan, architects proposed something audacious, a transparent glass dome terminal that would serve as a palace of flight, its soaring space a public cathedral to the miracle of air travel. But budgets and politics clipped those particular wings. The Grand Dome never rose from the tarmac. Instead, the dream took another form. A striking, spidery silhouette of steel and concrete that landed like a visitor from the future, the Theme Building. Its sweeping arches and flying saucer top were a pure expression of Googie architecture, a style that imagined tomorrow as a place of endless possibility. Even today, the Theme Building stands sentinel, its retro-futuristic lines framing the runways, an artifact from an era wherein the future still seemed magical. By 1961, the vision was made real. Terminals 2 through 8 opened in rapid succession, each a piece of the horseshoe, with United's twin terminals 7 and 8 claiming pride of place. There was an energy to it, a sense of flow and optimism. The architecture embraced the modular, the practical, and the stylish airports as cities within cities. And then, on the eve of the 1984 Olympics, LAX transformed again. Its face lifted for a world arriving on its doorstep. The second-level roadway soared above arrivals, untangling traffic, separating those who were coming from those about to depart. Terminal 1 opened to accommodate the surging Southwest Airlines, and the colossal Tom Bradley International Terminal signaled that LAX was now a gateway to the globe. By the 1990s, the airport's 9 terminals had achieved their iconic arrangement, 9 distinct islands joined only by the relentless loop of road and shuttle. For a while, the horseshoe worked. It even dazzled. But underneath the optimism, cracks had already formed. The design that had seemed so forward-thinking in 1958 now revealed its limits. Each terminal was an island, cut off from the others, forcing passengers to leave the security zone, brave the busy horseshoe road, or board shuttles that crawled through gridlock or navigated the warren of service roads and tarmac. Transfers became a test of patience and stamina. What once worked for Los Angeles in its mid-century prime began to falter under the pressure of millions of global travelers and the unpredictable chum of the modern era. The dream of LAX endured, but the reality was overdue for reinvention. From its beginning, Los Angeles International Airport has been a mirror for the city it serves. Restless, bold, incomplete, always reaching for the next horizon. By the dawn of the 21st century, the promise of LAX's original vision had run aground on the jagged reality of growth and neglect. 80 million passengers a year now pass through its gates, each one a data point in a logistical nightmare. Security, ticketing, baggage systems, all of it strained. The complaints became a background hum, the price of movement in a metropolis defined by velocity and congestion. The architecture of the past century, proud, modular, forward-thinking in its own way, had grown outdated, less a temple to flight than an obstacle course of inconvenience. Yet in this crucible of dysfunction, an audacious plan emerged. Los Angeles World Airports did not settle for half measures. It unveiled a $30 billion capital improvement program, a number so large it threatened to become abstract, until one began to see the consequences in steel, glass, and concrete. This was not a facelift, but a total reimagining, an attempt to knit together the fragments of the airport into something that could meet the demands of a new era. Since 2018, the change has been relentless. Terminal 1 was gutted and reborn, walls stripped to bones, systems rewired, spaces expanded for a generation raised on digital check-ins and biometric scanners. United's Terminals 7 and 8 shed their dated skins in 2019, ushering in airy concourses, faster security, more light. Then came the surgical work on Terminals 2 and 3, rebuilt from the foundation up and finally stitched together by the new Terminal 1.5, which acted as a connective sinew rather than another island. In 2021, the Tom Bradley International Terminal, always a symbol of ambition, got a lifeline in the form of the West Gates, a satellite concourse perched at the airport's edge, adding 15 gates and breathing space for airlines hungry for more slots. Every corner of the airport told the story of change. The economy parking lot became ITF West, a 4,300 space garage waiting for its connection to the future. The long-promised, much-mocked consolidated rental car center finally materialized. A behemoth of concrete that would at last eliminate the chaotic ballet of shuttles that clogged the approach roads. Piece by piece, the skeleton of a modern airport emerged from the carapace of the old, but the greatest transformation was still to come. The Automated People Mover, or APM, is the centerpiece of this transformation, at once infrastructure and aspiration. Imagine a 2.25-mile elevated track, its rails humming with the energy of fully electric trains, threading above and through the most notorious traffic bottleneck on the West Coast. 5 stations, each engineered for seamless transfer. Rental cars, parking, terminals, metro rail. The trains themselves, a process of 4-car units, circulate constantly, running every 2 minutes at peak, a rhythm meant to outpace the pulse of the airport itself. This is not just about shaving minutes from a commute, it is about liberation. Step off a plane in Terminal 2, and within 10 minutes, glide above the tangle of taxiways and roads to a waiting ride, never touching the quagmire below. That's not just convenience, it's liberation from the gridlock that defines LAX. Building such a thing in this place has become a masterclass in modern engineering. The APM's guideways cannot simply be poured and set. They must be threaded through the living anatomy of a working airport. Every segment of modular steel is craned into place overnight, during brief windows when passenger traffic ebbs and the looping road is quiet enough for construction to proceed. The choreography is relentless. Any delay becomes a butterfly effect, rippling through airlines, passengers, baggage handlers, and traffic control, threatening to snarl the entire airport for hours. Yet somehow the work pushes forward. The APM remains on track to open in late 2025, a rare feat in a city notorious for construction delays. But the train is just the beginning. Terminals 4 and 5, relics of the 1960s optimism, are being torn down and fused into a single, massive hub that will redefine how the airport's heart beats. Terminal 6 is also under the knife, gaining new gates, wider hold rooms, and spaces designed for the patterns of 21st century travel. Even the West Gate's concourse is doubling in size, its additions constructed as modular boxes that arrive on the backs of trucks, ready to be hoisted into place and plugged into the hole. Finally, there is the untangling of ground traffic. New ramps from Sepulveda Boulevard will launch cars directly onto the upper deck, bypassing the horseshoe and the snarl that has become as much a part of the LAX experience as jet noise and queues. Piece by piece, the old airport is being replaced, not just rebuilt, but reimagined. The vision is no longer one of mere throughput, but of flow, connection, and possibility. To approach LAX is to enter a liminal zone. One foot in the city of angels, the other still caught in the undertow of everywhere else. For as long as it has existed, the airport has been more than a physical gateway. It is a test, a crucible, an initiation. Newcomers emerge from the dim glow of their long-haul flights blinking into the overlit arrivals hall, where exhaustion collides with the clamor of language and the relentless cadence of announcements overhead. The smells, coffee, jet fuel, that peculiar LA tang of warm asphalt and ocean on the air hit all at once, mingling with anticipation and the quiet dread that accompanies border crossings of every kind. Yet LAX has always reflected the contradictions of Los Angeles itself. This is the city that built a dream machine out of freeways and fantasy, where fame and anonymity are separated by a traffic light or a lucky break. The airport for generations made good on its city's promises in only the most backhanded of ways. Every visitor knew the litany of complaints before they landed. The snaking lines at security, the joyless concrete corridors, the navigational confusion of a horseshoe loop that seemed designed for cars, not people. And yet, above this fray, the theme building perched in a perpetual pose, its arches outstretched as if to conjure spaceships from the smog. A mid-century invocation to progress, belief in the future made manifest in poured concrete and imagination. The symbol of LAX was never static. As the city changed, so did the meaning of its gateway. In the riotous optimism of the jet age, the airport was an emblem of upward mobility and motion. The promise that anything was possible if you only moved fast enough. But as the years passed and the world itself seemed to gather velocity, the cracks in the facade widened. LAX's flaws became inseparable from its identity. The place became a kind of punchline, used in films and late-night jokes as shorthand for urban dysfunction. The place where hope and exasperation converged in the slow crawl of a rideshare queue or the lost baggage office at 3 a.m. Yet even ridicule is a kind of love, and LAX, stubborn as the city it serves, refused to be static. Its crowds swelled with each passing decade. Immigrants, dreamers, celebrities, and skeptics all passed through its gates, each projecting their own version of Los Angeles onto the city's first embrace. The airport, always on the verge of collapse, persisted, a ragged emblem of a metropolis forever reinventing itself, forever one step behind its own legend. But now, as the 2028 Olympics approach, the city's perennial pose of improvisation has reached its breaking point. LAX is being asked to do more than endure. It is being called upon to transform. The automated people mover glides above the chaos, a visible rejection of old patterns. This is not just an engineering fix, but a signal. The city, long derided for its addiction to the car, is building a new script for arrival. Where the theme building once told the story of rocket-powered dreams, the glass connectors and looping rails now whisper a new mantra: resilience, connection, adaptation. Airports, like cities, cannot afford nostalgia for lost golden ages. They must evolve or fade into irrelevance. In this moment of reimagining, LAX stands at the crossroads of myth and necessity. The world is coming. The city is ready to be judged not on the fantasies it sells, but on the reality it delivers. The front door is being rebuilt, and with it, the story Los Angeles tells about itself. By 2028, if everything goes to plan, LAX will look unrecognizable. Terminals 4, 5, and 6 rebuilt. The APM is humming 24/7. Metro trains glide straight into the airport. The Tom Bradley expansion completed. New ramps unclogging traffic. And possibly, the opening moves toward two entirely new terminals, Terminal 0 and Terminal 9. Terminal 0, a lean hub for low-cost carriers, could rise north of the loop. Terminal 9, designed for wide bodies with full customs halls, could anchor the south. Together, they would carry LAX into the 2030s and beyond. Yet for all the glass, steel, and billions spent, the stakes aren't just about capacity. They're about whether one of the world's busiest airports can shed its outdated skin and prove itself ready for the next era of global travel. So when the world arrives for the 2028 Olympics, will LAX finally be the futuristic airport Los Angeles has always promised, or just the same old traffic jam with shinier terminals? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching this video with us, and catch you in the next one.